Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. The U.S. State Department announced yesterday that the U.S. and Poland will host a joint global conference focusing on the Middle East, particularly Iran, next month in Poland. The meeting will take place in Warsaw on February 13 to 14th, according to statement. World media are surprised with the announcement, as well as most of the Polish politicians. In 4 weeks, Poland and the United States will open the conference in Warsaw. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced the event yesterday and said it is going to be devoted to the situation in the Middle East, including, in particular, the role of Iran in the region. Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not see it in a positive light. Reminder to the organizers, participants of the anti-Iranian conference. Those who participated in the last American anti-Iranian show are dead, disgraced, or marginalized, and Iran is stronger than ever, wrote the head of the Iranian Foreign Ministry. Warsaw has been chosen because of our historically good relations with Iran and the Middle East. This is not a conference against Iran, but a conference where there will be talks about problems in the Middle East, and there is a lot of them, and conversations are needed. The head of the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also reminded that Iran saved Poles during World War II, while Poland, as he added, will host an anti-Iranian circus. Our history, such as Anders' army in Iran during the Second World War, allows us to become sort of a bridge between those two worlds of the West and the Middle East. From us, it requires openness and bipartisanship. It would be a shame if Poland subscribed to the views of only one side. Everybody knows the history of Polish-Iranian friendship, and ideally, we would love to maintain this, but we are in an alliance with the USA. We have diplomatic services to solve such issues. According to Dr. Ryszard Zoltynski, the event raises Warsaw's political significance in the realm of world politics. The consequences can only be positive. Security is a global problem. The Middle East is a ticking time bomb, and I think that our relations with Iran have been developing quite well in recent years. It's a difficult yet feasible task to try to improve Washington and Tehran's relationship. As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared, the February summit is an expression of a strategic partnership between the USA and Poland. One miner died as a result of a shock at the Rudna mine in Polkowice, while 6 others were injured. The spokesperson of the KGHM Polska Miedź, Anna Osarczuk, said that the rescuers have gotten everyone out to the surface and that 3 miners are in bad condition. The president of the KGHM, Marcin Hulusinski, has announced a 3-day mourning. Polish international security agents arrested a Chinese citizen working at the Polish branch of the international Huawei Corporation and the Polish telecom executive, both on espionage charges. Speculations of yet another clash between US and China runs amok. The detained Pole, Piotrek D., who served as an officer of the Internal Security Agency and later on a consultant at the Ministry of Digitization and the Energy Regulatory Office, where he was responsible for digital security, recently also worked for Orange Polska. Meanwhile, the detained Chinese man is one of the directors of the Polish branch of the Huawei telecommunications company. The Huawei company issued a statement regarding the proceedings of the Internal Security Agency. Huawei is aware of the situation and is monitoring it on an ongoing basis. For now, we do not comment on this matter. Huawei adheres to all applicable laws and regulations in the countries in which it operates. In addition, Huawei company requires that each and every employee comply with the law and rules in force in the countries in which the company has branches. Former security officer Piotrek Wronski said that the detention of Piotrek D. and Wei Jing W. shows the urgency for the Polish counterintelligence reform. In my opinion, and I said that many times before, we need to create a specialized agency of the state that shall be focused only on counterintelligence, and it will work on all directions. Not the internal security agency that is busy with issuing certificates and so on, but it must be counterintelligence.
To ma być kontrwywiad.
Vice Minister of Culture and National Heritage said that it is internal security agencies' job to identify and eliminate any threats for Poland. We see proper actions of the Polish Secret Service that is designed to fight espionage, namely the Internal Security Agency. And the standard procedure includes the arrest of suspects. This considers citizens of Poland as well as citizens of China. And it shows that our state works as it should in such cases. In the opinion of journalist Marek Kuru, the last action of the Internal Security Agency ABW confirms that China, as a global power, is interested in the situation, particularly among allies of the United States. The Chinese intelligence is in cooperation with strong companies such as Huawei, which doubles as intelligence and information collectors due to their global telecommunication business that gives them opportunity to hire people and gather the informations and intelligence. In China, as well as in the USA, the big telecoms employ plenty of active members of the intelligence community. Friday's detentions were carried out by the Internal Security Agency. They indicate that Poland is not only the target of markets in the free trade, but also intel agencies from Russia, Germany, and other countries. Experts have signaled such a threat for many years, but it was officially confirmed for the first time. The protest action of Yellow Vests against the government's financial policy took place for the 9th time in France. The authorities mobilized 80,000 officers. Large police forces were also gathered in Bourges, a city in the central part of the country. Today, at a Paris bakery, a powerful explosion and fire apparently caused by a gas leak injured 36 people, including 12 in a critical condition. Prayer Without Borders will begin today at 7 p.m. in Budapest, Paris, and Warsaw. The initiative was created thanks to sympathizers and friends of the Schumann Thought Institute in France. The organizers believe that a common prayer will liberate the natural need of Christians in other capitals to joining in the work of renewing Europe. That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. Snowy night as large parts of the country, a maximum of 5 degrees in Szczecin and a minimum -6 degrees in Białystok. Now over to tomorrow. It will be a mixed bag with rain across the country, but also moments when the sun will peek through the clouds. The temperature will range from 1 degree in Lublin to 7 in Zielona Góra. Snow will appear all over Poland. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Another snowy day with alternating sunshine and rain, temperatures hovering around 2 degrees. On Tuesday, temperature will drop to -2 degrees on the northeast. More rain is expected on Wednesday, but with slightly higher temperatures from 2 to 7 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business. Welcome to our show. We'll talk tonight with Mr. Jerzy Bielewicz, sir.
Good evening.
About the current events. And only a few hours ago, the world was electrified with this announcement of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that on mid of February in Warsaw, there's going to be summit, World Summit on Middle East and Iran. To what degree you've been surprised to that?
For us, there are two sides to this story. The first and the most important for all of us, the United States and players and countries of the Middle East, is the stability of the region. On the other side, for Poland, it's a success story because our country is very stable, trustworthy, secure, and it's a good place to have such a conference in Warsaw, in Poland. It's a good place for business. It's a good place for reconciliation. Some year ago, it would be Scandinavia, it would be Oslo. Right now, it's Warsaw, Poland.
Because they are looking for a stable place with low probability of terrorist attacks, of the low probability of some political mob that will stir the events?
Exactly. And people are happy here. We have very good GDP growth, the growth of in wages, and in Western Europe you could expect demonstrations. Not so long ago it was Vienna, but right now it's Warsaw, and I think it's a good choice for such a conference and good advertising for Poland, and that we are the place to conduct business and a success story place.
We do have a story with siding with the United States in the Middle Eastern showdowns, so to speak. First of all, in the 1990s, and just barely dig out from the Soviet state, Poland is siding with the United States and larger coalition against Iraq and for Kuwaiti freedom. 2003, again, Poland joins the coalition of willing against the advice of United Kingdom, France and Germany in order to support American intervention in Iraq and then the state building. Then in meantime, we had Afghanistan, and all over each time we're choosing the American side with little commercial incentive, because that's didn't happen.
I would not agree that Poland sided with the United States, and I would say I have to underline that Mike Pompeo mentioned Poland in his Middle East speech, and
that was in Egypt on Thursday, when he said that there are United States as allies from South Korea to Poland. That was the sentence.
Exactly. Yes. Two countries, South Korea and Poland, beside the countries of Middle East. And compare, for example, economic growth in Germany with this of Poland. Last quarter we had 5.7 GDP growth in Poland, and it looks like it might be a recession, technical recession in Germany. So I think our strategy to be aside the United States, it's a very good strategy, and we have to remember about the presence of the U.S. country in Poland, and it allows us to take some strategic decision if we talk about infrastructure, building the LNG terminal or Carpathia Road or central communication hub between Warsaw and Łódź. All those decisions are somehow connected to our alliance with the United States.
Oh, that's correct. So you are thinking that you're taking wholesale, that this decision to host the international summit is also a step towards establishing a permanent United States base in Poland, because those discussions are still ongoing, and obviously proper if the project will be properly managed and will come up with success, this will be another huge argument towards this deployment.
That's what you said, and that's exactly how it looks like. Yeah, Poland is a good place to decide on different areas in world politics because it's a very stable country. It's safe and secure and good for conducting business.
Right. We have also a tradition, both in terms of cooperating with the regimes in Middle East. We've cooperated with Libya, with infamous Gaddafi regime. We've cooperated with Iraq. The roads over there, the power plants, lots of factories have been built by Polish specialists, designed here in Warsaw. The same is in Syria.
We've got close connections to Middle East as well. I should mention natural gas contract with Qatar or crude exports from the region. We are very, very much interested in a stable region and with low prices of crude and natural gas.
When talking to the energy executives, I sensed their anxiety about this American ban of importing Iranian oil, but that looked like very promising for our economy. We remember only 2016, one of the first tankers came from Persian Bay to Poland, to Gdańsk. And
I would say that it's not
it
clear.
wasn't much from the Iranian point of view, but that was good deal from our point of view.
It's not that clear situation. The taste lies in the devil lies in the taste in this case. I would say that since the relation between the United States and Iran are not that good, the entrant to the region was Russia, and Russia benefited great deal economically from this change because, for example, they control much of the crude oil new projects in Iran and natural gas new projects in Iran. And it's not a good diversification if it's Russian oil or gas from Iran. So it's not that clear. I would not underline our exports from Iran because the situation is very, very, very much complicated.
Okay, let's look a little bit in the future and say what are the profits from what Poland is gaining in terms of business, in terms of money, in terms of contracts, in terms of recognition in the world.
First of all, I would say that it's very, very important if we talk about new trade relationships and if we talk about relationship between the US and China and this new project, Chinese project, Silk Road, and Poland is located very strategic. It's very strategic location if we talk about trade through the land between China and Europe, and we are destined to take bigger and bigger role in world politics because of our location, and. For example, common interests in energy sector with the United States, our contracts with the United States and import of natural gas, diversification from Russia, not only natural gas but also crude oil.
Well, that's very exciting. We will see how all the situation will develop. Only 4 weeks from now, 13, 14 February, a summit in Warsaw, which we never heard before, like 2 days ago. And that's a good news. Jerzy Bielewicz was our guest, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tomorrow. It will be a mixed bag with rain across the country, but also moments when the sun will peek through the clouds. The temperature will range from 1 degree in Lublin to 7 in Zielona Góra. Snow will appear all over Poland. Let's take a look at tomorrow's forecast for the continent. Temperatures will drop in Central Europe. We expect 4 degrees in Prague and 3 in Bratislava. Warmer weather down south with 13 degrees in Rome. Clear skies all over the Iberian Peninsula and a pleasant 14 degrees in Lisbon, while Madrid will see 12 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Polona.pl is the fastest way to use the resources stored in the National Library. Every day, tens of thousands of scans and photographs are made to make collections available to the public as soon as possible. Pre-war cookbooks, 19th century weeklies, magazines, and medieval manuscripts. Several thousand of these precious collections are published every day. The most interesting of these are presented on the front page of Polona.pl. Each document is a separate long story. The most fascinating objects from Polona in the review section of the Digital National Library are discussed by specialists and enthusiasts. One can create their own by saving an object and simply marking it with an asterisk. To share an interesting book or any other object, you can use social networks or just send an email. Reproductions of all objects locating in the public domain are available for download in the highest quality, free of charge. All this is possible thanks to the launch of proprietary, efficient software for digitization and archiving.
So, what could you tell us about this room?
Jesteśmy w Bibliotece Narodowej, w jednym z pomieszczeń, które służą digitalizacji naszych zbiorów.
We are in the National Library, in one of the rooms that serves as the digitization of our collections. Digitization is a difficult word, but in reality it means that our collections, which are normally only available in the library building, can be viewed everywhere via the internet. In order for them to be available on the internet, they must be digitized in rooms such as this one, by using good digitization devices, that is scanners, but not like the ones often seen in offices, flat scanners, which can scan but could also destroy our valuable collections. Therefore, the process of making our collections online begins here.
Niszczyć nasze cenne zbiory. W związku z tym tutaj zaczyna się proces udostępniania naszych zbiorów przez internet.
Let's say we have a book that has 300 pages. How long does it take to digitalize this book?
To zależy, ponieważ 200-stronicowa książka może być książką z połowy XX wieku.
It depends, because a 200-page book can be a book from the middle of the 20th century, and then it can be done very quickly, because we do not have to worry so much about protecting this book. A 200-page book from the 15th century will probably be digitized in 1 or 2 days, because one person is required in this process, who photographs or scans the book. And then also an employee from the conservation department, who makes sure that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens to this book. If this is a book, it is not so difficult. The manuscripts are the most difficult. Manuscripts by nature are the only copy that exists, and therefore the proper care for them is particularly important. Then the speed of digitization suffers. However, we have to accept it, because the preservation of these objects is much more important than making them available quickly.
Więc wtedy prędkość digitalizacji cierpi. No ale musimy się z tym pogodzić, bo zachowanie tych obiektów jest jednak znacznie ważniejsze niż szybkie ich udostępnienie.
When did the digitization start in the library?
Zaczęliśmy digitalizować nasze zbiory mniej więcej 12 lat temu.
We began to digitize our collections more or less 12 years ago, but technical progress in this particular field is extremely fast. Everyone can even see it on their mobile phones. 10 years ago, photos from the mobile telephone were like this, and now you can easily print them. So technical progress is extremely fast, and we want to use the best possible devices so that the reproductions we provide are as high quality as possible and as close to the original as possible.
które udostępniamy, była jak najwyższa, jak najbliższe były oryginałowi.
Until today, how many pieces do we have?
W naszej bibliotece cyfrowej serdecznie zapraszam polona.pl. Jest w tej chwili
In our digital library, to which I cordially invite everyone, at polona.pl, is at the moment, and it's hard to tell because I haven't checked it for a week, because it's growing all the time. I think that about 2.5 million items that can be viewed, because they are no longer protected by copyright, which is a significant hindrance when sharing such items, while 2.5 million objects can be used anywhere, at any time, by accessing the polona.pl website. At the moment, the National Library, together with the Jagiellonian Library, are running a project called Patrimonium, which by January next year, or 2020, will make available more than 1 million of the most valuable items in the library from the Polish collections.
2020 roku udostępni ponad 1 milion najcenniejszych obiektów bibliotecznych, jakie są w polskich zbiorach.
Technically, is it a hard thing to do to digitize a book, or does one have to train for it?
Tak, oczywiście prowadzimy szkolenia dla nowo przyjętych pracowników, a także dla tych, którzy już mają jakieś doświadczenie.
Yes, of course, we conduct training for newly admitted employees and also for those who already have some experience, because digitizing devices are easy to use but technically complicated. Therefore, employees need to know about the different rules that must be applied during work. For example, you can probably see that these devices have a more or less V-shape. The point is not to open the book too much, so that the back of this book does not suffer, because when we open it and then turn the pages, it certainly has an impact on the state of the book.
Następnie przewracamy kartki, to ma na pewno wpływ na to, w jakim stanie jest książka.
The issue of the influence of light on books is also very important, because in the last decades scientists have found that light is one of the greatest enemies of paper, and therefore books, manuscripts, maps, etc. are stored in darkness. They come here to the digitizing rooms, and you can see that the intensity of light during the digitization will change. The light is on only when taking a photo with 2 cameras, because 2 pages are photographed at the same time, and then the light dims. We turn the page over, and again it becomes bright when taking the picture.
Jasno jest, w pełni jasno jest tylko w momencie robienia zdjęcia przy pomocy 2 aparatów fotograficznych, bo robione są jednocześnie 2 strony.
The person who digitizes must master the process so that the books return to storage in as close a state as possible to which they were taken out.
Digitalizuje, musi to wszystko dobrze opanować, tak żeby książki wróciły do magazynu w stanie jak najbliższym temu, w jakim z niego wyszły. To jest strona polona.pl, czyli cyfrowa witryna Biblioteki Narodowej.
This is polonia.pl, or the digital site of the National Library, on which we present objects that we digitize. It's available in both Polish and English, so it's easier to find what you're looking for.
I w tej chwili jest na niej 2,5 miliona obiektów, ale niestety nie wszystkie są dostępne wszędzie.
At the moment, there are 2.5 million items on the site, but unfortunately not all are available. Some of them are protected by copyright. There are 300,000 items readily accessible to the public. If you know what you're looking for, you can search using the name of the author, the title of the book, or the place you want to see on the map.
Autora, tytuł książki, miejsce, które chcemy zobaczyć na mapie. Można także szukać w treści.
You can also search in the contents, and this is something particularly special. In most digital libraries, there's no such option. You can also search based on what you're looking for, like with maps and atlases, for example. There are currently 11,000 available. You could, for example, search for Europe in the 6th century. A click in the appropriate place will generate an item of this.
I możemy sobie przeglądać je, wynaleźć coś, co nas szczególnie interesuje.
A click in the appropriate place will generate an image of this item. It is digitized in high definition, so you can get very close to the object to see the smallest of details. On this map of Gdańsk from the beginning of the 18th century, you can see not only the city itself, but even the city skyline. It may be of interest for foreign viewers who can find out more at polonia.pl.
Których zapraszamy do polona.pl, polona.pl. You are most welcome to see the National Library of Poland digital collections.
In Polona, you can find books, magazines, maps and atlases, leaflets, photographs, graphics, and drawings, manuscripts, postcards, and notes. According to these 9 basic categories, you can view both the entire Polona resources as well as the search results or the content of individual collections. Most of the facilities available in Polonium came from the public domain. Some of the objects protected by copyright are made available to all users on the basis of license granted to the library. Some of the objects protected by copyright are made available to all users on the basis of licenses granted to the library. The remaining ones are available only at special terminals available in the reading room of the National Library or other libraries in Poland that joined the Akademika project.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the Warsaw Royal Castle, an estate that served as a residence for king and monarchs of Poland for centuries. Follow me and my guests as we unravel the story and history of this amazing place on Poland Daily History. Today, we will talk about the May 3rd Constitution and how the procedure of electing a king in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth looked like. The May 3rd Constitution was passed in the Parliament in 1791 in an attempt to strengthen the country and save it from Russian domination. It was the second modern constitution in the world after the U.S. Constitution. Our first guest is Łukasz Jędrzejczak, a historian and longtime guide at the Warsaw Royal Castle. So Poland has made one last attempt at avoiding being partitioned, and one of the ways they try to do that is through the establishment of a constitution, which ended up being one of the few countries that have adopted it at the time. Can you tell me more about the constitution?
Konstytucja 3 maja była jedną z ostatnich wielkich reform.
The Constitution of May 3rd was one of the last great reforms carried out by the king and the so-called Reform faction. It aimed to introduce the basis for a modern Polish state. The divide between Lithuania and the Crown of the Kingdom of Poland was liquidated. There was a full unification of the two countries into one great republic. The taxes, parliament and army were reformed. A hereditary monarchy was also introduced. After the death of Stanisław Augustus, the authority was to go back to the Wettin dynasty, which had ruled before, the descendants of Augustus II and Augustus III. The status of Poland as a protectorate of Russia was ended. It wasn't deemed acceptable for any other nation to interfere in the internal matters of the state. Rich representatives of cities belonging to the king were also allowed to be represented in the parliament, and from now on had some influence on future governments. It was the first European constitution and the second in the world, which formed the foundation of a new, modern European state. This particularly angered the Russians and Prussians, who wanted to weaken Poland. The timing of the constitution was key. Russia was busy waging a war against Turkey. Prussia and Austria, also hoping for a weak Poland, were involved in suppressing the French Revolution, which erupted in 1789, so this was the best possible time for a new constitution to be adopted when all the great powers threatening us were preoccupied with other conflicts. The opposition was also in disarray because the constitution was enacted without the presence of the so-called hetmanship faction, which was against the reforms.
Uchwalono konstytucję przy nieobecności stronnictwa hetmańskiego, które było przeciwne reformom.
How does the environment of Warsaw look like? How does the castle look like during the time when they are trying to establish that constitution?
Zamek w okresie panowania Stanisława Augusta stał się centrum.
During the reign of Stanisław Augustus, the castle became the center of culture and art in Poland. Marcello Bacciarelli decorated the canvases depicting Polish history with Casimir the Great, the Treaty of Kotin, after a successful war against the Ottoman Empire, and the Battle of Vienna, also against the Turks. He made portraits of kings that we can admire in one of the rooms of the castle to this day. He also depicted the so-called Thursday suppers, weekly meetings of the nation's intellectual elites were held, where various topics were discussed. Outstanding writers, artists, architects, painters, poets were invited. The king was the main patron of this, and under his reign, Warsaw, without a doubt, became the cultural capital of Poland.
Stała się kulturalną stolicą Polski.
But in the end, the constitution did not last. And how did that came about?
Kiedy na dwór w Petersburgu
When information about the enactment of the constitution had reached Petersburg and Poland had in practice become independent and broken off ties with Russia, Catherine the Great was furious, putting it lightly. Russia quickly signed a peace treaty with the Ottoman Empire, and Catherine, paying off Polish traitors, prepared for an intervention. In a place called Targowica, the traitors, Franciszek Zawry Braniecki, Szczęsny Potocki, Seweryn Przewózki, and many other magnates, unhappy with the constitution, declared a manifest, the so-called Targowica Confederacy, which quickly became a national symbol of betrayal and apostasy. At the request of the representatives of the Targowica Confederacy, the Russian army crossed the Polish border, aspiring to overthrow the authorities. Of course, many of the traitors were working against Poland. For example, Prince Ludwik Württemberski, who commanded the Polish army in Lithuania, decided to betray Poland and switched sides. His forces either dispersed or avoided all battles with the Russians. The complete opposite was done by heroic commanders such as Tadeusz Kościuszko or Józef Poniatowski, the nephew of King Poniatowski. They fought for freedom and for the constitution. The tragedy for the king was joining the Targowica Confederacy in an attempt to salvage whatever he could. He deluded himself, thinking that by doing this, the constitution, or at least some of the reforms, could be saved. In my view, what should the king have done? He wasn't a warrior, but he should have gone out to the army and fought together with them, lead by example, and only give up once the Russians were in Warsaw. Only then should he have said, yes, we surrender. His problem was that, because of bad advisors, he joined the Confederacy too early. This was his biggest political mistake, which he is paying for to this day. He is called a traitor, but he wasn't a traitor. He was a hero. He was trying to save the Polish Republic, but unfortunately, he couldn't.
niestety mu się to nie udało.
It is often claimed that the internal rivalry within the Polish nobility led to the downfall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This internal struggle was often particularly fierce during the royal elections. With time, it became increasingly common for factions of the nobility to ask foreign powers to intervene on their behalf in connection with power struggles arising from the elections. Next up, we will speak with Marcin Skalski-Truskolaski, a historian and expert on heraldry, genealogy, and everything relating to the Polish nobility. To illustrate the spirit of the time, he is dressed as a Polish nobleman of the era. So how is the process when the nobilities all get together and try to elect a new king?
When the king died, there was a funeral parliament session to say goodbye to him. Then there was a convocation parliament where the monarch was chosen. It was an important event, and candidates could come from the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and the crown of the Kingdom of Poland. Any nobleman had a right to stand for the crown. This was the case de jure, but de facto, the level of wealth and political importance of the candidates were taken into account. Noblemen from foreign foreign dynasties also often put forward their candidacy. The Habsburg dynasty were especially prone to try to have their representatives elected as kings of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and to include it into their hereditary realm. Even Russian monarchs, for example, Ivan the Terrible was presented as a candidate for the crown at one point by a faction of Lithuanian noblemen, which might seem somewhat strange to us now. There was no real election fight. Votes were bought, nobility was bribed, and various promises were made in return for voting for the right candidate. Sometimes the candidates used their family tree as an argument. For example, the king who was chosen not on his own merit, but based on the achievements of his father, was Michał Korybut-Wiśniowiecki. This was a difficult period of time for Poland, as it was after the abdication of John Casimir. This was just after the Swedish deluge in the mid-17th century. The southern regions of Poland were engulfed in heavy fighting against the Ottoman Empire and its attempt to expand at the cost of Polish territory. The nobleman chose Michał Korybut-Wiśniowiecki as a king based on the great deeds of his father, Jeremy Wiśniowiecki, who was considered a hero by the nobility for having fought against the Ukrainian Cossack uprising led by Khmelnytsky. He wasn't a fortunate king. His reign was short, but again we have an example of a hetman, a military commander-in-chief who opposed the king. This time it was the later King Jan III Sobieski, who at the time was a supporter of France. Michał Korybut was supported by the Prussians, so in the pre-election time not only did Polish political battles play a role, but foreign ones too. The king was chosen on an electoral square. We have two places in Warsaw where kings were chosen. One is in Wola, we have a statue there now. It's located south of the Powązki Cemetery. Most of the kings were chosen in Wola. It had an electoral hut for the senators to make their decision. The second one was located right next to a lake in the Praga district. This is where people from all provinces turned up for a royal election because attendance was important, so the more people turned up, the more weight the election had. Then, in the 18th century, when there were civil wars between confederacies, one confederacy supported one king and another supported another. The higher the attendance to vote, the more sure and valid the position of the king was. It was different to what was happening in other countries, where the selection of the king was based on being next in line in the dynasty, while in Poland, the king had to be selected by the majority of the crown of the kingdom in Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. It was also during this time that the tradition of appointing an interim leader to rule for a period of time after the king's death was established. This interim leader was traditionally a Polish Catholic archbishop.
Który tradycyjnie był nim katolicki prymas Polski na okres bezkrólewia interrex władał Polską.
Here at the Warsaw Royal Palace, we learned the history and story of Polish democracy and how the parliamentary system came to be. It later on became an influence to Europe and to the whole world. It is not just a story of the castle, but also the story of Warsaw and the story of Poland. That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily History.
Welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where it's tram time. That's right, we're going to be traveling around Warsaw using the extensive tram system. You can go from Belany to Wilanowska, from Praga to Wola, from Marszałkowska and Jana Pawła, the great thoroughfares of the city, all using trams. For a lot of you, that will sound pretty exotic. Extensive tram systems don't exist in many cities around the world. Did you know that trams crisscross Warsaw over 276 kilometers? That's 171 miles. There are 750 pieces of rolling stock, 27 regular lines. It's one of the biggest tram systems in Europe. Tram systems are quite familiar in the cities and towns of the old Soviet bloc. But go to most major cities in the United States, for example, or in Britain, and some other European cities, and you won't find trams. The largest tram system in the world is in Melbourne, Australia. 250 kilometers. The next largest are St. Petersburg, Upper Silesia in Poland, Berlin, Moscow, and Vienna. In Warsaw, it all started with horse trams in 1866. The system grew slowly at the beginning of the 20th century, and between the wars was hampered by the Great Depression. The tram system remained operational throughout the Nazi occupation until the Warsaw Uprising in 1944, after which all the infrastructure was systematically destroyed. During Soviet rule in the 1950s and 60s, the network was extended to newly built districts like Ursynow. There was no metro. There were few cars. The tram system remained the backbone of the transport in the city. Post-1989, the tram system continued to use ancient rolling stock. The metro was the thing. However, since joining the European Union in 2005, the metro system of trams in Warsaw has been extensively renovated with new rolling stock and new tracks. It's a pleasant way to see the city. Let's take a look. It's tram time in Warsaw.
Well, you think we're going to get there?
I think so. Despite the weather, we'll get there.
I think we're headed in the right direction.
They're pretty reliable, the trams.
I checked my compass.
Good. We're heading north.
We're heading north. I checked my compass, and I would have followed the North Star. That's what I usually do, but it's cloudy again.
Yeah. Good job we have the north-bearing tram.
I think we're going the right way.
I think we are. Yeah.
We'll be in the center in a second.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's my favorite place to be.
Yep.
I like being centered.
You certainly do.
Yeah, I really do. Hey, this is it.
This is it. We're here.
We're in the center. What time did the trams stop running at night? This is a question I've often wondered, because I go to bed every night about 9:30.
Well, you've still got plenty of trams at 9:30.
Yeah,
I mean, it depends
I know.
It depends on the line. By about midnight, most of them are closed.
Yeah, but the thing
If you
is,
stay up late. It's about midnight.
You've got some trams that finish their run but have to go back to the tram base, and they're not listed as a regularly scheduled tram, and that they still come through and can take you for a short distance where you might be going.
Wait a second, folks. This is interesting. The tram base. Is that like the mothership?
It is, but there are 4 of them in Warsaw.
Ah. Where would those be located?
One in the northwest,
Yeah, okay.
one in the northeast,
Okay.
one in the southwest, and one in
Where
the
would that?
southeast.
I don't understand. Where would the last one be?
Probably the southeast.
Ah, that's why you're here, because you know your directions.
Yeah.
Better than most.
Yeah.
The one in the northwest is by the Northern Cemetery.
Yeah. Okay.
The one in the southwest is near Telewizja Polska, near TVP.
Yeah.
And Galeria Mokotów, that area.
TVP. Yeah. Okay.
On the east side of the river, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It's interesting how they just don't put them in the south or the north or the east or the west. They're a little askew, I would say.
Well, no.
These motherships.
No, in
There are
fact,
4
because
motherships.
each one operates as an independent tram service, scheduling its own trams out and back. And if you notice...
that sounds a little rebellious.
Well, if you'll notice, certain, the northwestern one, for example, only sends trams at certain places and only across certain bridges, not across other bridges. And the southeastern will send other things. And so they encroach as little as possible on each other's territories and yet serve the entire city.
That must keep them from being too rivalrous.
Well, it's not about rivalry so much as it is keeping logistics simpler.
Are you sure it's not about a rivalry?
Yes.
They could be.
It's all the same company.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, it is the same company, isn't it? So probably they're working together rather than competing to see who has the shiniest tram.
Well, that's probably true. But you noticed, and if you noticed, when Warsaw was modernizing its rolling stock, you wanted me to get that word in there, I know. When Warsaw was
tell us what a rolling stock is? Is it like the Rolling Stones?
Yes.
Slightly less musical.
Right. In any case, you notice that certain tram bases got the new rolling stock and certain did not. And so you only saw the old snub-nosed trams on certain lines, and those were coming out of
Hey, wait a
whichever
second.
particular southwestern.
Snub-nosed trams? Hey.
These were the old
That
ones
sounds
with
a
the
little
round
violent
front.
to me.
Well, it was, but they had
Take
only,
it easy.
They were cyclopean.
Take it easy there,
A
fella.
single-
Not on this show.
A single headlight.
They had a single headlight.
And they were fun. They were a little loud, but they were fun to ride in a nostalgic sort of way. I believe that was rolling stock from the 50s.
But some of those are still not in action anymore.
They have a few historical examples, yeah.
There's a few that they still. It's been a while, I guess. Most of them are new trams.
Most of them are. It's been a few years since the old snub-nosed trams, rounded nose, or however you want to call it, were
Which was
in regular service.
those were operating before the Great Transition.
Yes, those were
quite
from
a
the
while.
50s.
Yeah.
Then the square metal ones, which also still operate, not so many also, those were from the 80s. And then, of course, there was a newer version from the 90s that was still coming out.
It's time to wander, and there's no better way to wander than with a transportation ticket in your pocket. The city is your oyster, any time of day, any season of the year. For there is one inescapable fact about living in a large city. And Warsaw is a large city, with a metro population approaching 3 million inhabitants. The inescapable fact is that you have to get around. I get around, to coin a phrase, by using the mostly rapid transportation system. I favor trams and metro. I'm just that kind of guy. Hating red lights as I do, the spruce and modern Warsaw Metro is a happy alternative. Cruising in tunnels beneath the overflowing city streets is quite a pleasant experience, popping up from one station to another like a gopher coming out of his hole. Rub your eyes, adjust to the light. Trams are also just dandy. Streetcars fill me with desire. When it comes to travel romance in the city, you might say I have a one-track mind. The trams and metro have it. A streetcar named Desire. The last metro. These are names to conjure with, full of mystery and excitement. When you think about it, travel is something we're doing all the time, whether we're alone or with a friend, whether we're traveling to work or to have a night out, whether it's night or day. We're always traveling, in our heads, in our neighborhoods, in our hometowns, from country to country. But you don't have to travel to the far corners of the earth to find adventure. Sometimes it's just right around the corner. So we wander, like Nicholas and I. We wander across the length and breadth of the great capital. The people of the city must move, and move they do.
Of course, Warsaw has a few historic, nostalgic trams that you can rent for your own private trip around Warsaw, yeah. And
who would you call? Do you know who to call for that?
I'm sure it's at zm.waw.pl, which is the Zakład Transportu Miejskiego. Is that correct?
It is. Warsaw Transport Company.
Yes, ztm.wad.pl.
Good Lord.
Well, you know.
You are a font, O wise one. Yet again.
I'm just waiting for my...
I stand in awe.
So, in any case, one of the trams that I have not seen in Warsaw are the two-axle type that used to run in Poznan and I believe Wrocław. It was an old, it had literally a stiff front axle and a stiff rear axle, not independently rotating wheels, and so they were very loud. The gears, they were wooden. The whole thing would resonate as they drove along, and it was just...
Bone shakers.
They were bone shaking, ears shaking, everything shaking. And I remember...
trams are really nice.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But the old ones, they did have quite a bit of nostalgia to them. The new ones are very nice. They have air conditioning. I sometimes question whether the tram drivers understand how air conditioning is supposed to work.
How's your Arnold Palmer? Do you like that?
It is.
Do you know what this is?
It's quite civilized.
Do you know what kind of drink? I wish I'd said that. Do you know what kind of drink this is?
Yes.
Nicholas, would you tell the folks what that is?
It's tea and lemonade.
Yeah, half and half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and who invented the drink? It's tea and lemonade. Yeah. Who invented the drink? Do you know?
I've no idea.
The great Arnold. I can't say that name. Arnold
Palmer.
Palmer, yeah, who was a great jazz musician. No, it's not true. He was a golfer.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He was one of the great golfers.
He was.
He's not with us anymore. Lived to be about 85. Still drinking those. Yeah.
That's a top tip then.
No, they kept him going.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a little bit of whatever magic elixir added to them. Anyway, it's nice to have one of these at Coco and Roy restaurant.
Lovely.
Beautiful downtown Warsaw. Gentlemen, can I intrigue you? Well, thank you very much. That was exciting. What do you think that we have not talked about that people would like to know about?
I'm just
trams?
amazed that Phil knows so much about the trams of Warsaw.
I'm amazed I know so much as well.
He's incredible.
I didn't know I knew that much.
I know.
He knows a lot. This guy, I'm telling you.
I'm not the expert, really.
He surprises me all the time. He's not a tram expert, but he's just encyclopedic.